Buddhists reflect regularly on death. There are images of the Buddha lying on his right side, passing away, which are used as reminders that death can happen, or does happen, to everyone. But for a Buddhist, death and impermanence are not a gloomy subject, and thinking about them doesn't lead to hopelessness or despair, because Buddhists understand death differently. The moment of death is the point where one life ends and another begins. Death is the end of this life and the passage to the next. So death isn't just about loss and endings, it's also about what lies afterwards, and that's why it's so significant for Buddhist practice. The life and death of human beings is seen as part of the cycle of life and death that applies to the whole of the natural world. The seasons, the tides, the way an apple seed gives rise to a tree that produces more apples. All these are examples of the cyclical laws of nature. And humans are part of nature, according to Buddhists. They're not separate or different from nature. So we too depend on these cycles to eat and drink and survive. And we too are born and die. So you might be able to accept this logically, but rebirth is usually difficult for most of us to understand. How do Buddhists explain the idea that there are many lives after this one? They say that at death, the mind and body separate. The body decomposes, like all matter, and is reconstituted as part of the organic world. The aspects of the mind that depend on the body also dissolve at death. And this refers to sense perceptions, for example. We can't be aware of forms and sounds if we don't have eyes and ears. But meanwhile, the most subtle consciousness continues, and it doesn't die. It's able to exist without the body, in an unending flow of consciousness. And that consciousness then joins with a new sperm and egg, for example, and begins a new form of life. So one of the important factors that determine what type of life will occur in the future is karma. The moral consequences of our actions affect what rebirth we will take, whether we're reborn as a human or an animal, for example, or in a fortunate situation or a miserable one. So when someone dies, all their friends and family gather together and pray, and they ask local monks to pray as well, wishing the person's next life will be as fortunate as possible. It's believed that genuine prayers of this kind can have a powerful impact on determining someone's future rebirth. So we could say that for practicing Buddhists, all the meditation and prayers they do throughout their life and all the compassionate actions they engage in are a preparation for the moment of death. A Buddhist may not attain enlightenment in this life, but they can lay the groundwork for happy and positive circumstances in the next life. So death isn't seen as a failure or a weakness. It's seen as an opportunity, as the culmination of a life of spiritual practice, a real moment of truth.